Jim Bacon, who's normally with us on Mondays, is back with us today. And Jim, we had a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, but then we caught wind of this story where the arbiters of truth are on the march at University of Virginia once again, huh?
Yes, the arbiters of truth and the keepers of our memory are what we're allowed to remember. The latest example of cancel culture at UVA is the renaming of the Alderman Library. If anyone in your audience went to UVA, they will remember Alderman Library as this magnificent structure, had over 1 million volumes, as I recall, just a phenomenal number of books. Mm-hmm. It's where so many of us spent time and went and studied and did a lot of things. And just we never really thought a whole lot about, well, who's it named after? Who's this Alderman guy? But it was just part of our mental landscape at
mm-hmm.
UVA. And now they decided that, Alderman, who turned out he was a president of the University of Virginia for about 25 years in the early 20th century, okay. And it really created the modern university. He was a major proponent of public education. He actually, in the mold of Woodrow Wilson, he believed in raising taxes to pay for more public education, which in the South was a pretty big deal at that time. Mm-hmm. He admitted women into graduate programs. He reorganized the university according to pretty much its modern governance and organizational structure. He was actually arguably, next to Thomas Jefferson, the most important person to run the university. And but he had one big drawback. As the people of his era, he held views that we now consider racist, deplorably racist, and he also made University of Virginia a leader in the eugenics movement. So clearly, there were aspects of the man that we look back today and we go, well, we don't honor that about him. But that's enough to get him canceled today, and everything that he accomplished, all the good he did, and all the progress that he made is all down the memory hole. So the university administration under Jim Ryan, they want to rename it under a different former president, Edgar Shannon, who is widely liked.
For the moment.
And for the moment, yes.
Who knows?
Exactly. Well,
we dig around in his background. I don't know the guy, but...
Well, yeah, exactly. No, and nobody's done the rummaging yet, so we don't really know what happened. But so that was they were going to bring it to the Board of Visitors back in December, but it was defeated because they withdrew it because they didn't think they had enough votes to rename it. Mm-hmm. But now they're back. I mean, they're the lefties on campus are getting organized and they're putting up posters and they're creating websites and they're kind of talking about all the horrible things that Alderman did. And and be honest, I mean, there are things that we look back and go, okay, yeah, eugenics was bad, eugenics was terrible, and that's certainly not an aspect of them that we would approve of. But the question is just like, how pure does someone have to be in order to recognize their accomplishments? And can we asterisk their biography? So we go, yeah, we praise him for his accomplishments, to honor him for those things. At the same time, recognizing, yeah, there are things that we've moved way beyond today. Can we do that, or do we simply just purge them from memory and purge them from any kind of honor at all? And then at the end of the day, we're kind of worried. I mean, a lot of people are worried about, but first it's Alderman, and they're going to come for Jefferson, and they're going to come for Thomas Jefferson, because at the end of the day, it's like Jefferson, he did own slaves, and he did hold
it's a
views about race.
Disqualifier for these people. You can't have a candid, honest, objective conversation and acknowledge good and bad and let it stand there. There has to be. It's an odd thing that in the modern era, modern people seem to have appointed themselves as the arbiter of good and evil for everything up until themselves. there is
yes,
they let themselves off the hook over and over and over again about decisions that they make and things that are obviously not working, but everybody else is subject to the 2024 discernment of what's good and evil. And I think that there's an arrogance to that. There's something that's very alarming to me about that.
Well, yeah, it should be alarming, and it's the mentality here is that we know what the truth is, you don't, and we don't need to know anymore. The truth ends here.
Yeah.
And as opposed to the idea that, oh gosh, well maybe our views on things and interpretations of things kind of evolve over time. A, as our values change, and B, as we learn more, kind of gin up more facts and things. I mean, for example, Martin Luther King, he was, according to the FBI files that have been unearthed, was a terrible misogynist. He had a terrible view towards women and behaved towards women abominably. But we don't remember him for that. I mean, that's kind of a footnote that we have, but we should always remember that you can be on the side of the saints when it comes to the civil rights movement and equal rights for blacks. But that doesn't make you perfect. But it doesn't mean that we cancel you because of what you got wrong. We honor him for what he got right. And but it's very selective. I mean, the people on the left, they're not remotely interested in Martin Luther King's misogyny. They never bring it up, and they'll never cancel him because they basically see him as a man of the left.
Well, not yet. But I wonder, Jim, do you think that this is really about a modern purity test, or is there something more nefarious going on here? You know, some of my friends who I do listen to, and I listen to them with a more open mind than I used to, say this is a part of a cultural revolution that if you study world history, you can see it in country after country where the communists try to take over, and one of the things they do is they pit people against each other. They purge the historical record, and they can always find something that will be objectionable about everybody. And they pick, and destroy, and then eventually they get their way because there's nothing left as a reference point about the original culture.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree that's to some level that's what's going on. And the question is whether you kind of cast it as kind of a conspiracy kind of a thing. There's somebody behind the scenes kind of plotting this all out, or whether you see it as kind of a herd mentality in which the pack moves together. And you know, I engage with a lot of these people on my Bacon's Rebellion blog, and I mean, I think that they're absolutely sincere in their condemnation of people like Alderman and other figures from the past. I mean, Robert E. Lee, and go on down the list. They are absolutely, totally sincere. They think these people were terrible, awful people. I don't think they have any kind of great motive. They're not looking the next step down the line saying, okay, now we're undermining the fabric of the United States. I mean, they think they're supporting the fabric of the reweaving the fabric of the United States. So I think it's more a matter of people having this kind of puritanical, it's a new puritanism and intolerance, and think I know the truth, you don't, and the truth ends with me. Yeah,
and you get to decide who is commemorated going forward. Anybody pushing back on this, and then I got to run.
My friend Bert Ellis, who's on the Board of Visitors, is pushing back.
That poor guy, he's standing all by himself, and how is he surviving in Charlottesville? He's the only guy who's got any guts.
Yeah, he's the only one person who's willing to speak out much at all. And but we'll see what happens. We get a new majority of Youngkin appointees on the Board of Visitors come July 1st. We'll see if the dynamic changes. Yeah. Don't know if it will, but we hope it will.
Well, thanks for flagging this. The march continues to eradicate people who are unacceptable by 2024 standards, even though they lived a century ago. I think that's a problem. Jim Bacon from baconsrebellion.com. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
It's 8:48. We're back with more in a moment on News Radio WRVA.